Everybody good? All right, here we go. In 5, 4.
Hi, I'm Natalie Portman, and I am so lucky to be talking to Pablo Larraín and Kristen Stewart about their incredible new movie, Spencer, that I feel so lucky to have gotten to watch recently. Kristen, what was your first meeting with Pablo like, and what drew you to work together?
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. This is so cool for me. You have no idea.
Me too.
Yeah, I know it's like, whatever. I don't need to like start off on a fucking awkward, annoying thing, but it's very true. I'm very thrilled. Anyway, okay, so me and Pablo met on the phone. I was in a car and I like had to pull over because, talking in front of other people, especially to somebody that you have not met before. And then I was like, I didn't know why he was calling me. And my agent was like, hey, Pablo wants to call you. And she was like, I don't really know why. And she did, maybe she knew already, but didn't want to tell me. And so I was like, pull over immediately. And I got out and I was like, hey, and I could tell just by the sound of his voice, like he was absolutely sure that he wanted me to do this movie with him. And I thought that was so reckless and irresponsible. I was like, you don't even know me. Maybe you hate me. And, but I was not going to be the person to sort of stand in the way of that assertive. He just, it's like when someone really believes something, I wasn't going to tell him he was wrong. But I had to wrap my head around such a lofty idea. I hadn't read the script yet. Everything in me was just like, yeah, but I have absolutely no idea. And he did tell me sort of generally what the ambition was, which was to do something, that just took place over 3 days and never really articulated anything, but externalized something incredibly interior. And I thought to do a movie like that about her, it was like absolutely the only way. And I didn't know much about her at the time, but I did know, I guess, like the hugest thing for me was just that everyone missed her so much, and it was like the impact of the loss was like immense, but I didn't know her at all. And so I think I was just like, yeah, man, I'll do your movie, but I don't know if I can, and it's going to be a whole, and he's like, it's process. And I was like, well, I believe in your process. So let's do it.
Amazing. And Pablo, obviously Kristen's such a dream to work with for a director, and you've talked so much about her mystery. What is that role of mystery for you in capturing this story, and why is that important for you?
Well, I guess I might have discovered that with you when we made our movie. And thank you for doing this, Natalie. Yeah, I think I guess I use the word mystery to try to describe it, but in reality, is those things that you cannot describe, and cinema can really live with that, and I think it's essential to cinema to film things that aren't describable, and that undescribable thing we usually call it mystery, and mystery is the key of any narration, of things we don't know. And I guess that's triggered by the fact that, we think that we're going to know, or we already know someone, but maybe in the process of making the movie or seeing the movie as an audience, you might be able to get to know someone more, but in reality you don't, and it's just you can only share an experience that it's very difficult to describe, and that's fabulous, because I think that the proof of that, it's how the movie becomes a different monster for different person. Like every person would see a slightly different film, and that it's only because we're all different, and the movie needs the audience to be completed. It's all, this is very obvious, but it actually works and exists. But yeah, it's those things that you cannot really describe, and I think Kristen did it fabulously, and it's wonderful, because there's no way really to know what are those ghosts, and sometimes you think that those ghosts are are triggered by the context, and they are in a way, but in some capacities those ghosts were always there, and it's part of who that person is, and I love that, and I love to try to share that experience with the audience.
Kristen, Pablo, I found gave directions sometimes when we worked together that were so unexpected and so almost contrary, like the exact opposite of the direction I would go or another character would obviously go. What were some of the ways, and I have to say, was like opened up incredible doors. What were some of those things that where he guided you that were surprises for you?
You know, I guess the first thing that like pops into my head is it wasn't a surprise, but it was so vital. Like it was so completely essential for me to hear this in this particular moment. He, you know, if you tell someone to chill out or to relax, that never feels good. Like, you know what I mean? You always, because then you start to assume, oh, I'm all keyed up. That's not good. You know what I mean? No one likes to be told to calm down. It's like a very, you know what I mean? Like it sucks. It doesn't feel good. But he came over in the most absolute tender way and was like, relax. And like the way he said it was so nice. And like, he basically was saying is like, you have it. So believe that. And like, that was so compassionate. And I really did need it. And I felt like as soon as he told me that, something physical happened, I went like, conk. And I was like, let's fucking go. Let's make the rest of this movie right now. And it was on the second day of shooting. It was the first day that we had dialogue. And it was with Timothy Spall, and it was a very long scene, and it was
so hard.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess other ways that Pablo surprised, to be honest, we talked so much before we started making the movie. And then while we were shooting, I know you've probably worked now with masks when the director's wearing a mask. It really is strange because everything we were doing, it was really just in the eyes. Like I felt like Pablo played this part with me. Every time I took a step, it was like we were stepping in unison. And I don't say that like, I mean that literally. I don't mean it like we shared a heart and, you know, it was, but it actually, I never was doing anything by myself. I guess what really, really shocked and surprised me is because like his work is so varied. All of his movies are very different to each other. And so in this case, I thought I was going to be dealing with a director that maybe was slightly more remote. I didn't realize that he was going to be somebody who literally, if I was laughing, he was laughing. If I was crying, he was crying. Like it was like, that shocked me. We didn't talk a whole lot. We kind of just went through it together and kind of figured it out piece by piece, because as precise as the script is, the path was not. Like where we were landing was always like he knew exactly where we were going, and it was definitely like our job together to kind of like cut through weeds to get there. And every single day shocked the shit out of me. Every single day I was just like but you know, I don't think I answered your question very well, because I don't know, everything about him is surprising. Like I can't believe how compassionately he looks at the inner life of women. I can't believe it. He's just some dude. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think like he's just unreal the way that he kind of looks inside of people. I felt so visible. I never had to go, hey, dude, come over here. You have to see this thing that's happening that you can't see from the outside. I couldn't hide from him. He saw everything. So it was a really nice feeling.
That's beautiful. Pablo, you shot on film, and I guess, Kristen, you're so young, I bet you haven't shot much on film before. What was it like capturing her as an actress? Like, how do you think it's different? How does the medium like affect the feeling?
I think it's very different. I think it creates a little bit of a ceremony on the set. I think that it's not only more precise, but there's more care, and everyone cares more. and it also allowed something that is extremely simple, that maybe some people won't really understand, people that is not really related with our industry or know the details of the camera work, is that a 16mm camera, it's the lightest camera ever built. And it's a camera that could be really, really close to the actors. And you both know that really well. And that allows you to be very close. And when we did Jackie, I kind of discover with you and with Stefan a little bit how would that work. And then we, I think, expanded with Kristen and Claire Mathon, our DP in Spencer. And we were really, really, really close. You can do that probably with a digital camera, but it would never be the same because you cannot really breathe in the same way. It's too long to explain how it's actually filmed. It's not just how it's captured, but it's the physicality of the filmmaking. And that creates a tension that allows you to somehow inhabit her perspective. And if you do it constantly, at the beginning was quite scary and uncomfortable, I think, for Kristen, because we were really, really close and for very long takes. But then she quickly got into it. And what it does, and this is something that it really fascinates me, is that it somehow, she allows us to see what she's looking at, but through her. And so she can open the door to share whatever she's feeling and seeing, or she can close it. And that sort of interaction makes the movie more fragile and makes Kristen to be more exposed. And that's why it's so difficult and dangerous, and at the same time so beautiful, what she did, because she's completely, exposed, naked, with her face, her humanity. And going back to what Kristen was saying is that, I when I was a little boy, I would go to sets and I would see the director being seated really far on a tent, like enjoying this, like if that person would be almost watching a football game. And I would never understand why that person was so far. It's all the fun, all the fascination, all the beauty happens in the camera, or as close as you can be from the actors, and I could only be really, really close, because it's the only way to experience it. And if I'm not operating the camera, then I can look straight on and see what is happening. So it becomes an interaction that is very beautiful and moving. So thank you for saying that, Kristen. But it's something that you also allowed me to be a part of. Sometimes at work, or being in a situation where the actors, they don't let you do that because it's their process and it's more private. So it becomes they create a wall that you cannot enter. So it's a thing. But yeah, long life to film. Back to your question.
Agreed. What you obviously both took liberties with, and like kind of license to tell your own version of Diana. Where did you feel the line was between, where you wanted to be faithful and where you wanted to be more free?
I felt like if there was anything egregiously like wrong, I knew that even if it was just for a couple of people who would know that Diana, for instance, really didn't like cigarette smoke. Like if there was anything around, she would come out of hallways and be like, "Who's smoking in the next room?" Like it was something she really couldn't stomach. And there was a really beautiful scene where Maggie and Diana go outside to have a cigarette, and it's still in the movie. We go outside, we go to the beach, but it was like, "Come on, let's go have a smoke." And it was a nice touch because it was like sort of harping. It was almost like calling back to their previous life together when they were younger, and they would go, and it sort of it like embedded this history in their dynamic, and it was cool. But I was like, we can't do that. Anything else? Do you know what I mean? Because the movie is like, as you know, like it's there's very little detail in it, because if you know a lot about what happened, or if you've gone through all of the books and stuff, they all cancel each other out. Everyone has a completely different memory. Memory changes everything. It's so unobjective, you know, like even people that really think that they know, they all have differing opinions. And so what I thought was really sick about the script, I read the script, I loved it. I was like, great, let's change nothing. I don't even care what really happened. But nothing is wrong, actually. I was just that one thing, just the smoking thing. Everything else is like, yeah, sure, these 3 days didn't happen in a condensed way, but all of everything the movie like ruminates on, it's a poem. It's definitely like an inner life, whatever. I've said this a lot, but like it also is oddly really substantially bolstered by like facts. He talked to, he won't even tell us who he spoke to like research this project, but he spoke to a lot of people that worked in those houses. And having read through everything, I don't know why. And it's not, definitely not, we never like, our ambition was never to get anything right. It was just to sort of like love her and feel her and then like let that ripple. But nothing's wrong in it. And watch, like, I'm sure anyone else can weigh in and say, well, that's not true because this and that, blah, 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 but it like doesn't matter because the movie does something else. Yeah.
And Pablo, how did you feel about what you wanted to kind of explore and be, you know, truthful and exact about versus what you wanted to like take freedom with?
I started the movie thinking that we were, you know, doing a story about identity and on how a woman would find herself in the process of those 3 days and realize that she could have a life without her husband and deal with it. And but when we shot the film, and thanks not only, you know, because of the story and Kristen, but thanks to those kids too, I realized that we were making a movie about motherhood, and it was a revelation for me. You know how close I'm with my mother, so I saw myself in those kids with all the difference that they obviously are, but and I understood that those kids were very relevant to help her to decide who she was in that moment, and that she could probably have a life without her husband. And so it became really personal somehow, to see how your kids can be so relevant in your own life, and it obviously affected me as a father as well. So that was a whole revelation, and it happens as we shot it, and then when we cut the film, we just made it even more clear, and we pushed it so it became more strong. Whether if I don't know if you're also asking if it's how related or connected it with reality, I don't know. I think that there's a thing that we know that they actually happen, and there's a things that we might think that happened, but we are making a work of fiction, and it's made out of the respect and the love that I think and that everyone involved had or have for Diana and her figure, and this sort of sense of tragic feeling. You know, I think they're very tragic characters. Even Jackie, I think they deal and they live with tragedy, and that's always, you know, has always been from the very beginning of any kind of narrative, one of the most exciting and interesting and complex type of characters, because they carry on their own tragedy, and as every good Greek tragic character, everything they do is to avoid the tragedy, but it actually takes them to that death, and so yeah, working with a character that we know that will die in those conditions quite soon after the movie is over. It was very special, and so we didn't have to go there because it was already, you know, in the subconscious of the character and the audience. So yeah.
And Kristen, having started out as such a young actress yourself as a kid, what was it like now working with kids as this mother, and in this, of course, tragic context? What was that experience?
It was the scariest part of the movie. If that scene doesn't if that scene doesn't feel like a bubble that's so easy to pop, but also like floating above everyone, and also like kind of the engine of the movie, it's what it's kind of, it's the reason to go. It's like, it's what you're protecting, it's what you're fighting for. And when you look at her pictures, videos, anything, she feels so unconditional when she's with them, and so she's just a precarious bag of bones in any other environment, unless she's like touching someone. Like with those kids, she just was a different animal. And I'm not a mom, and I have one, everyone has one, and so I do understand that feeling. And I've been on set as a little kid before, and Jack, who played William, is so upset. Like we couldn't get him off the set. There were times where I was like, man, we're about to do something really heavy, we have to tell the kid to go, because he loved it so much. And he just wanted to be around us all the time. I was so lucky. They came to set like just wanting to love me, and they are really good boys. Like also Pablo, just, you chose so well, because they're such beautiful little guys, and they're really good at it. They're steeped in all this royal, they know more about the royal family than I do. They like improv in complete perfect contextual, like unbelievable breadth that scene has. And it's like, you know, we had an outline, we knew what we were doing, we knew the game to play, but it's the only scene in the movie that's even a little bit improvised. Like everything else is word for word the script. And to see those guys bring that type of life to the set was like, that is what you are fighting for. It was so fun. Also, like just having them around, like I was the kid who couldn't be kicked off the set. I was like, I can work more than 9.5 hours. I'm not tired. He was the same. And I was just like, oh man, I think you're going to be an actor, dude. I told Jack all the time, I was like, you're going to do this. You really want to do this, man. And it's going to work. I'm so proud of them. They're so good in the movie.
They're amazing. It's good.
Yeah.
Pablo, your films are so, the stories you choose to tell in Spanish are so different than the stories you choose to tell in English. What do you think is behind that? Like, is that an accident so far?
It is, I guess, and it's also, it's a good question. I hadn't even thought about it, but maybe the movies that I've done in Spanish and in my country, they're movies that, for obvious reason, they're very close to me, and they're more political somehow. And maybe working outside has helped me to go to places that I could never believe that they would actually were possible. You know, after Darren invited me to make our movie, this movie became, you know, a possible idea. And then I don't really have a really good explanation. But I guess there's a sense of freedom that I could have doing movies in English that maybe here it's a different type of freedom. I'm more constrained to circumstances, context, history, whatever, who I am. I don't know. Maybe when I'm working outside, I'm more fearless, because it's an unknown ground. So I can be more responsible somehow, I guess, in certain things. Yeah.
Cool. And how do you think, both of you, about the audience when you're making a movie? Do you think about the audience at all?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, you should go first.
Yeah, but I am the first audience, and then I guess I'm not that weird, so I could be just like most people and feel the same things. But you have to love it first. Otherwise, I don't think it would work. If you only think about someone else and not yourself, I don't know, how would that be?
I think that's a really, because I was going to say, gosh, there's like so many ways to kind of approach that question, but like some actors some actors really believe that they can only be feeling truthful and present in a moment if they're not thinking about where the camera is, or like you know, that you're making a movie at all. I'm always making a movie. Like, you know what I mean? Even though I hope always, like, you get so lucky when there feels like there's no separation, and like your concentric circles suddenly completely eclipse each other, and you're like, I am this person, and that's dope. But but that doesn't mean that I always want to be as visible as I can be, if that, I guess, is what serves whatever project. I'm always like imagining what the movie is. I'm always kind of like helping. I'm always wanting to help the director from the inside. Do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I'm always like, well, how is this going to come across? And you know, having said that, obviously there are times when you can like sprawl and lose yourself and not think about that. But I always want to land. I want everyone else to have the same experience I'm having. So of course that's a consideration. But I guess you're right. It is kind of like you're doing it for you. Like it's like, I want to make the movie that I want to see. Wasn't very well said, but something along those lines.
Oh, that was great. Thank you so much, both of you. I'm so happy to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Glad we had this talk, and thank you for your beautiful movie, and hope everyone watches it.
Natalie, thank you so much for doing this. What a cool experience for us, seriously.
And come over.
Okay.
Next time you're walking by, knock.
I'll throw little rocks at the window and be like,
Perfect.
hey.